It's exceedingly difficult to stroll through the remains of Pompeii without being struck by a specific despairing. Here is a city trapped in the past, fixed, set up by a layer of solidified debris that cleared over it following the strong volcanic emission of Mount Vesuvius. The place is unmistakably summery, but a new discovery has made it even more poignant. Archaeologists have found a room in the remnants, one that recounts a dull and contacting story. Archaeologists in Pompeii broke into a prohibited room and afterward froze of the site inside. But before we get subscribing to our channel is the best way to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest historical journeys content. It's like having a direct line to our channel. Let's get started. The archaeologists had been exhuming Savita Juliana, a neighborhood not exactly a portion of a mile past the limits of Pompeii legitimate. More than a century ago, their predecessors started working at this location, which quickly led to some remarkable discoveries. Most quite, maybe a sizable estate in the area gave scientists colossal knowledge into life during Roman times. Starting in 1907, archaeologists unearthed this estate, and in the end figured out how to reveal 15 unique rooms inside. After that, they were divided into one of two categories: living quarters or farming. The stepping stool clearly would have been for general use, though the previous were for working. Wine or vegetable oils would have been produced in this instance. The place called Savita Juliana is fascinating and has a lot to tell us about life in ancient Rome. Yet there's an issue. The region has been attacked by thieves who have furtively burrowed into the site and taken off with significant antiquities. Archaeologists were also forced to prioritize excavations here due to the unfortunate circumstances. While it absolutely isn't ideal that archaeologists have been compelled to work at Savita Juliana along these lines, the outcomes have been certainly entrancing. There have been some amazing discoveries there over the past few years, but the room that was announced in November 2021 is probably the most amazing. This space is exceptional as it recounts an unfortunate story that is frequently disregarded by history specialists. The entire complex where this room was viewed has demonstrated as a very productive archaeological site, despite the fact that numerous questions remain unanswered. Numerous amazing finds have been made there since construction began in 2017, and experts believe it was once owned by a high-ranking Pompeian. Near the end of 2018, one of the villa's most impressive discoveries was made. When the remains of a large animal were discovered by archaeologists, they ended up being those of a pony complete with a seat in the tackle. As Mount Vesuvius erupted, the horse's outfit seemed to suggest that someone was about to ride it. This pony is really one of three to be found inside the manor. A few more had recently been discovered, one of which wasn't exactly in great condition. That is to say, just its legs were recuperated, which probably been a really upsetting, incredible sight. Due to the fact that it was discovered alongside a number of other artifacts, the third horse was unquestionably the most significant find. Wooden and bronze objects that appear to have served a ceremonial purpose were discovered. Unfortunately, however, specialists accepted that this site might have contained more things before, yet they were taken. The manner in which the archaeologists figured out how to re-establish the pony structure is very fascinating. Plaster was used to fill the hardened ash casing around the horse, following a centuries-old method. After that, this set, allowing them to see the animal's shape as soon as the ash covered it. Matteo Saimo, Santa's supervisor for Pompeii's archaeological excavations, discussed the horses found in the villa with the Onsen news organization. His bones weren't with everything looking good by any means, however, with his spine specifically appearing to be very harmed. Scientists believe that this was the consequence of difficult work, which perhaps shows something about the youthful monitor's life. Perhaps he was a slave and other person was his lord. Experts came to the conclusion that the couple might have survived the eruption of Mount Vesuvius at first, but their luck soon ran out. Despite the fact that everything around them had been canvassed in debris after the emission, it appears to be that they remained in the city. The following day, another impact shook the region, and that is the point at which these men kicked the bucket. Maese Nino is cynic, has remarked on this disclosure to addressing the related press in November 2020. He conjectured with respect to what the men were doing exactly when they passed on. Ace Nick said the casualties were presumably searching for cover in this underground space where they assumed they were better safeguarded. Sadly, the men were off base. They would not be safe in this location from the sheer force of the disaster that is occurring around them. In an interview with Reuters, a Santa explained the cause of the couple's death, saying that they died of thermal shock as evidenced by their clenched hands and feet. The disclosure of these two men was without a doubt convincing, yet in no way, shape or form would it end up being the last. The finds simply continue to come at this villain's Savita Juliana as delineated in WALK 2021. That was the point at which a self-important chariot decorated with extravagant engraved metal was found. It is one thing for the chariot to have survived the destruction of the Vesuvius eruption. However, it is quite another for it to have remained in such perfect condition for so many centuries, especially considering that looters have been known to frequent this very location. The chariot was discovered in fantastic shape, which is actually quite surprising. The vehicle was canvassed in bronze and tin, which bore the etchings of otherworldly creatures like cupids and fairies. It sat on for powerful wheels made of iron, which probably made it very weighty to pull. It's possible that the arduous task was completed by the horses that had been discovered previously on the site. Archaeologists have previously discovered the other carriages, but this one was quite distinct from the others. Typically, such finds are very useful and essential. However, for this situation, adornment was obviously critical. This recommends that chariot was utilized during unique occasions like weddings or marches. Prehistorian Eric Poehler is a specialist on transportation in old Pompeii, and he was floored by this find. Addressing NPR, he commented, "I was shocked a significant number of the vehicles I'd expounded on before are your standard station, cart or vehicle for taking the children to soccer. This is a Lamborghini. This is a car that is just plain fancy. Even though this Lamborghini-like chariot is unique, it is not, without a doubt, the most significant discovery made at the villa. That honor belongs to a very plain and small room. There's nothing extravagant about this space by any means. So for what reason is it no joking matter? Well, the very truth that it's so basic really makes it critical. It would appear that this room was once used to house slaves, which would account for its small size and plain decor. That makes it truly significant on the grounds that oppressed individuals made up an immense extent of old Rome's populace around the time Pompeii was obliterated. Around 15 of the realm's public were slaves, and their accounts ought to be told. In a public statement converted into English by NPR, a main figure from the archaeological park of Pompeii talked about how unique this find was. "This is positively one of the most thrilling disclosures during my life as a paleologist. Even without the presence of incredible fortunes Gabriel such unimportant made sense of. The genuine fortune here is the human experience. The possibility of them living in these circumstances is disheartening, obviously, yet it's critical to examine these things." The archaeologists likewise found a shut compartment produced using wood inside the room. They discovered a number of items made of fabric and metal when they finally cracked this thing open. One hypothesis is that these relics were segments from a saddle, which thus has prompted the possibility that these individuals might have been accused of caring for the extravagant chariot that was likewise tracked down in the manner. Other than the wooden box and its items, the archaeologists likewise ran over a lot of different holders at the edge of the room, in addition to a couple more under the beds. Due to the room's extreme crampedness and discomfort, they have speculated that the residents may have used the latter vessels to store their belongings. This really struck a chord with something so insignificant. In an official statement that was subsequently converted into English by the Watchman, he couldn't conceal his sympathy. He looked. "What's most striking is the confined and shaky nature of this room, which is something between a residence and an extra space that Churchill was obviously satisfied to recount the narrative of the slaves who'd lived here." He went on to say that this is a window into the precarious reality of people who rarely appear in historical accounts, which were almost entirely written by elite men, and who, as a result, run the risk of being left out of great historical accounts. Because it is evident that this room has a significant story to tell, ongoing archaeological investigations are being conducted in it. There is currently so little information available about the oppressed members of ancient Roman society, and discoveries like this provide an opportunity to rectify that situation, though it will require a great deal more research. It is known that wealthy Roman society members once lived in Pompeii. Archaeological works all through this one-of-a-kind site have gone some way towards focusing a light on the truth of these individuals. Yet, what of the others? What was it like to be among the most reduced echelons of that society? This room, at long last, gives us a little knowledge into the overwhelming real factors that slaves had to persevere in old Pompeii. Assuming this space is anything to go by, it appears to be that they lived in confined, awkward circumstances and were managed the cost of not many in any extravagances. Their lords, in the meantime, partook in a wide range of comforts. The remnants of Pompeii have previously shown specialists such a huge amount about what life resembled in that destruction city, straight up to the second it was cleared out. The food varieties individuals ate, the functions they participated in, to put it plainly, everything that made up ordinary daily existence. This room, however, has explicitly added variety to the narrative of individuals whom history would in general disregard. Dario Francis Sheen is the priest of culture in Italy, so he normally has an interest in the revelations at Pompeii. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a thing.